38 points, 46 goals scored, 2 different managers, but one objective achieved at the tail end of the season, with Motherwell securing Premiership status for the 33rd consecutive season in a row. It was a topsy-turvy one for Motherwell, albeit, but joining me today to look back over the season we've just had is MFC TV commentator Barnstaple and Deputy Head of Sport at the Evening Times and the Herald, Scott Mullen. But before we go any further, let's remind ourselves on the 2016-17 campaign.
Scores! That's the way to get a new Scottish Cup challenge going, and Motherwell have the lead at Ibrox.
Brilliant header from Moult, right into the top corner from Louis Moult.
And Motherwell have something to hold on to here in the Scottish Cup.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me again. Of course, we had a mid-season review. Natural now that we wrap it all up with this. And let's be honest, it wasn't the most enjoyable campaign at points, but towards the tail end, as safety came closer, it was enjoyable. And Graham, just a quick sum up of that season we've just had.
Yeah, the whole season was probably stop-start. We never really quite ever got going. I know Mark McGee mentioned that with the start of the season, with internationals, and then there was the cups. The winter break, it just felt as if the season never got going until actually Steve Robinson came in and we had that run towards the end of the season, which kind of climaxed with the win against Kilmarnock, as you mentioned in the intro, secured our top flight status again. And I think those two games, Hamilton away and Kilmarnock at home, kind of were enjoyable too, albeit that I was probably as nervous as anybody in those two, but we got the job done in the end, and that's all we could say about the season, I think.
And Scott, it was getting to that point, wasn't it, where Motherwell had to make changes in the board and everyone around the club acted quickly to take Mark McGee out of the job, and Stephen Robinson came in. And what did you make of that decision? Was that a turning point in this campaign?
I think it was. I mean, you think back to that period of time, I think Motherwell had shipped something like, Graham might be able to tell me, being the stato that it is, something like 17 goals in 3 games. I think you had the game at Aberdeen was 7, you had 3, I think was it 15 goals maybe in 3 games, because you then had the 5-1 game at 5-1 game here against Dundee. I mean, I was at that game. We were commentating. I was working for the Herald that day, and at half time you could see we were in the press room through there, and you could hear the fans outside. I don't doubt the players must have heard them as well, because it was quite loud. There was a gang of them, about 150 to 200, and you could sense, as much as the club didn't act that day, they took their time, they did things the right manner. You got the impression that Mark McGee's card was marked from that point, and it's a shame. You never want to see anybody lose their job. Well, certainly I don't, but I don't think there was any way back from Mark at that point. No, the run the team were on, the goals that were losing, the margin of victory, and I think, with all due respect to Dundee, shipping 5 goals at home to a club that is much on your level, just that there is no way back from that, you know. So,
and with them easing off in the second half, no, there's 5 at half time. It could have been, who knows what it could have been if they'd kept going.
Well, that's true, and also look at Dundee after. I think they lost 7 games to bounce, and
until they played us again. Until
they played Motherwell again, and Paul Hartley lost his job as a result. So it's not as if it was a high flying Dundee team that beat you. So it was inevitable. I think the writing was on the wall at that stage. But Stephen Robinson came in, got the result that really kick-started things against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. I mean, it was tight, it was jittery. I'm struggling to think of a Motherwell game this season that wasn't tight or jittery. Even the game towards the earlier part of the season against Hamilton, where I think Motherwell were up and cruising really early on, then regressed a little bit and then came back in the second half again. It's not been a straightforward campaign, but from my experience, both personally and professionally, watching Motherwell is never ever that way. So shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise. But I think a lot of people were maybe unsure of whether getting rid of Mark McGee at the time that they did was the right thing to do. Yeah. But I think it's a decision that's been vindicated now when you see where Motherwell eventually finish in the table.
Such is the nature of Motherwell Football Club, Graham, that everyone would love to see Mark McGee go on and do well. He's done so much for the club, but one of the major things that started from the very beginning of this campaign and continued all the way with Stephen Robinson was the presence of some of these young boys coming through and getting playing time, and I feel that that's been a big part of this campaign and a lot of what we can talk about. Yeah,
interesting. One of the things I did write down when I was looking back on the season was Alan Campbell's debut in particular at Hamilton, which you and I commentated on, which was a fantastic performance that day. He dominated the midfield almost on his own. The only disappointment was he didn't get a lot more playing time until the last 5 or 6 games of the season, and then you couldn't shift him out of the team. We've also seen Jack McMillan play, Ross McLean, Adam Livingston in the last couple of games as well, and hopefully he can kick on into next season. It was only a taste for him in the last couple of games, and that's what the manager said we do. We give young players a chance. They may make mistakes, but they'll learn from it. Hopefully they'll learn from it, and they can kick on into the season. And that's what we've always done here. And I love seeing the new boys coming through. I enjoy going to the odd under-20s game when I can, because it gives you a feel for what is coming through. Shea Gordon's also played actually now in the Northern Ireland under-21 squad, which is good for him and for the club as well. So yeah, let's hope they can all be stronger next year, and I'm sure they're going to have to play a big part next season because of the kind of cull we've had in the summer. So these boys have got to do it in next season for us.
You don't want to judge these boys too much because they have been thrown into the deep end. I think a lot of them maybe compare what a few of them have done compared to what Chris Cadden was like the previous season. But I think Chris is almost a one-off because he came in and physically looked older than them, and where no disrespect to kind of Alan Campbell and David Ferguson as well to a certain extent, but they look like young boys that have come through the under-20s, whereas Chris Cadden looked like a first-team player. He looked like a 24, 25-year-old, and you could tell in that under-20s cup final last season he looked like the 30-year-old ringer that had been pulled in for the game. He was physically and in terms of ability as well and technique, he was head and shoulders above the rest. But Graham's right, it does look bright for a lot of these players. Motherwell are famous for some of the names that they've brought through, and there's maybe been a little bit of a lull, I'd say, up until about the last year or two, whereas there does seem to be a good batch coming through.
And as well as the players that are coming through, Graham touched on it as well, the players that have departed in the past couple of weeks and moved on, and it's worth looking back and crediting those players for what they've done for the club, isn't it, Scott?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of experience in there, but I think it's no secret that Stephen Robinson wanted to change things. He said that in his first press conference actually, that this is a big rebuilding job, and he said to us that I will not be scared to be the man that wields the axe, and I think he's done that to a certain extent. Obviously a lot of these players are just coming to the end of their contracts and things are dropping off, but I think he's right to do that. The Motherwell fans are nothing but if not honest, a bit too brutally at some points, especially depending on the ground where you're sitting. And I think it's been clear for a while that there's maybe needing a freshen up. Scott McDonald has moved on. I mean, over 2 spells he's contributed a lot, but I think it's fair to say Motherwell fans haven't really seen the best out of him over the last few games. I know there's not been a lot of goals there, and I think his cutting edge had gone a little bit. And I'd imagine being one of the higher earners, that'll free up a bit of money to bring hopefully another player, maybe a couple in on better money and open things up. But you're right, there's been a lot of players that have been here that have been good servants both historically and over the last year or two. And as much as it's not been a great couple of seasons, the objective, as you say, has been complete. They've stayed in the league. At Motherwell at the stage they're at, with the rest of the league getting stronger at the moment, that's all Motherwell fans can ask for.
I think one player from me that we just talked about before we came on air is Lionel Ainsworth. Lionel maybe hasn't contributed that much in the last couple of years since the playoff, but he holds so much regard because of what he did in the 2 playoff games against Rangers. I think that has, every time he goes out and warms up behind the goal, behind the standing, it's a great ovation from the Motherwell fans. I think that's what's in their memory. He'll also be remembered for that goal against Kilmarnock the other week, which set a lot of nerves when he. Well, we thought it was just. Well, we did say bang it towards the top corner, but we didn't think it was.
Just doing it?
And that's the kind of thing I think that fans love to see, and he did bring that excitement at times. Lionel, he did frustrate at times as well, but No, you look back at some of the goals he scored, and a couple up at Tannadice, I remember, where he just banged in from long range that goalkeepers never even saw. So, in some ways it we missed, but in other ways it's kind of like it's time for him to move on. And Plymouth, I think, will be a good move for him. But no, Lionel deserves a lot of credit for what he's done over the few years he's been here. You
mentioned there the goal against Kilmarnock, but there was a goal against Kilmarnock at the start of the season. If you remember, it was through goal, chipped the keeper. It was a tremendous finish. We had a piece in the paper with Lionel yesterday. He was bidding farewell, and you did feel it was really with a heavy heart that he left. I think if the circumstances were right, he would have stayed, but I think he felt as if for the sake of his career and his family he had to move on. But he's a player that I think you're right, Motherwell fans have a lot of respect for, but from a personal point of view, he's been absolutely fantastic to deal with. I mean, you guys will know he's one of the nicest guys nicest guys you can meet, and certainly the Motherwell fans, out of all of the players that are leaving for part of this summer, I think he's the one at the top of the list that they'll be wishing to see well the most.
Scorer of some wonder goals over his time at Motherwell, and of course everyone does wish him the best moving forward. And speaking of goals, I guess that brings us nicely on to Louis Moult. We have to speak about his contribution this season. We were at the Player of the Year awards, Graham. He picked up
just about everything,
all the awards basically. And just how key has he been this campaign?
I think he has been key. I think back to the 2 games he didn't play when he commentated with me. The 0-0 game with Hamilton and the 2-0 defeat to Thistle at Firhill. We really missed him in those 2 games. You could see the difference, him not being there, his movement, not just his goals, his effort, his working across the line, everything that he brings to the team that it's hard to replace. His goals are obviously different class as well. The one that stands out is the Celtic one, which won the club's goal of the... No, it didn't actually. Lionel Ainsworth won the club's goal of the season, but that goal against Celtic, when Big Mick pinged it from one side to the other and he just took it on the volley over a stranded Craig Gordon, will live long in the memory. His goal at Hamilton, which you and I will never forget for our reaction to it as much as anything else. No, these were key. Well, the Hamilton one was a key goal. The Celtic one maybe not so much, but the one against Hamilton and the one against Hamilton the other week as well, and the dying weeks of the season was massive as well. So without Louis, I don't know where we could have ended up this season. I think that he was the edge between us and Hamilton and Inverness. They didn't have that kind of player on their side, that proven 18 to 20 goals a season type player. So you can say he was a guy that was a big difference between us and the other 2 of the 3 teams that finished below us.
And another story of the season, Scott, that especially towards the tail end, was injuries seemed to really hamper us at points. Richard Tate, Stephen McManus, 2 very important players to have missed a lot of the season towards the end there. Could it have been different had they been fit, do you think? Would it have been secured a bit early doors?
Yeah, I think so. I think, no disrespect to Big Mick, but I think the loss of Richard Tate was the most decisive injury that Motherwell have suffered over not just this season but the last couple, I think, because not only did you lose Richard, who's been a tremendous right back for Motherwell, and we've sung his praises all season, but it also you effectively lost Chris Cadden as a result, because Cads had to be sacrificed to put to right back, and no offence to Cads, it was not his natural position. It was clear it wasn't his natural position, and you lost so much attacking threat from him that I think up the other end of the park you suffered from that as well. Motherwell probably would have had more chances, more deliveries in at the box, whereas the manager had to shuffle things about a little bit, and it didn't quite. It worked enough to get Motherwell to where they wanted to be, but you look at losing Big Mick. But I think Carl McHugh, again, no disrespect to anybody else, has been Motherwell's best defender for the last 3 months. You know, I know he's played there before, but I'm looking forward next season to getting him back in midfield and seeing what kind of impression he can impose himself on not just this Motherwell team but to everybody else, because we were talking in the office a couple of weeks back before the Players of the Year nominations came out, and Neil Cameron, our football editor, was doing a piece on who's each team's Player of the Year, and I said, well, who's Motherwell's? And he burst out laughing. He's like, do you need to ask Louis Moult? And I went, maybe I'm giving it to Carl McHugh, and I get laughed at. He's only played half the season. I'm like,
I thought Craig Clay was your player of the season for a long time.
I know, but he didn't go to the football writers' dinner with me, so but no, I think Carl McHugh has been absolutely tremendous. And I thoroughly envisage that he will be a huge part of this Motherwell team next season. And absolutely, I think he'll be absolutely the middle of it. I think that the team will revolve around him in many respects. I think
the injuries that you mentioned, Lewis, forced the manager into strange formations. I feel like we're a team that's been 4-4-2 for a long time. We were supposed to go at 3 at the back with Ben Hennigan Carl McHugh and Stevie Hamill. I tucked in one. You kind of lose a wee bit of Hammy as well when you did that, because he obviously bombs forward too. A 5 in midfield and two up front, or a variation of 3-4-3 at times as well. So it kind of forced the manager maybe to think more laterally, but it kind of threw us out a wee bit. We're kind of playing with no right back, as you mentioned. We also lost Richard Tate. Did provide a lot of assists before he went out as well.
Did,
I think he was in 4 or 5 assists before he went out.
A couple of goals as well.
Lose that as well. So those injuries were quite critical at the time of the season that they came along.
Yeah, and you quite rightly say, Scott, looking ahead, Carl McHugh, next season we look forward to seeing him have a full campaign under his belt. And as we do look forward to next season, Graham, and Scott, you touched on about Stephen Robinson not being afraid to wield the axe, as you put it. It's a big job he's got, but it's a job that you feel he'll be up for.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's shown he's got a passion for the club, which is good for a start. He obviously has a feel for the place. He knows the type of people that succeed here. That we've been lucky over the years, or not lucky. Sorry, we've developed a core of senior pros that have gone from Scott Leach, Phil O'Donnell, Stephen Craigan through Keith Lasley, Stephen Hamill, that have kept this dressing room that we're in really tight. And I think Steve recognised that as well, and will look to add to that and make sure it's the right kind of people that come into the club and won't poison the atmosphere, if you like, which I think is key here. It's always been a good atmosphere off the pitch, I think, which carries out onto the pitch. So I think Steve gets that, and I think that's what we'll see put together. Obviously the right people for the right places, but I think they'll be the right type of people that'll come in as well.
The manager, I don't think's hung about. I spoke to him in just a couple of days after the Inverness game, the final game of the season, and was trying to arrange a time to come and see him, and I get cancelled on about 3 times because he's like, sorry, I'm speaking to players, I'm speaking to agents, I've not got a chance. And so I envisage that the Motherwell fans will see signings coming in sooner rather than later, potentially within the next couple of days. I don't think he'll hang about. And the club announced this week that they're going to Dublin on a pre-season kind of training camp. I think a large part of that, obviously the facilities are going to look incredible, but I think that's a bonding exercise, because I imagine there will be an influx of maybe 5 or 6, 7 players, and it's important that they knit together very quickly, especially with a Betfred Cup campaign.
Coming out of the doors.
Yeah, because I think the club desperately need a cup run of some sort, and with the way the groups are put together, Motherwell have got a good chance of progressing quite early. That if they get their act together and manage to avoid Rangers and Celtic, unlike this season.
The group stages,
but if you think this season, Rangers put Motherwell at the Scottish Cup, and it was Celtic that put Motherwell at the League Cup. So if they can manage to get through the group stages and avoid that, then who knows? But I think the work is already being done. But I think Steve recognises the importance of getting everybody on the singing from the same hymn sheet and quickly. Yeah.
And off the park as well, gents, we have to talk about the pitch out there. It's getting redone at the minute, a lot of work going on, but I mean, it seems like, yes, it's something we like to sing and dance about here at Motherwell, but it is worth the credit.
Absolutely. No, I've been coming here long enough to remember it was a decent pitch way back in the early days when I used to come here, although by those standards, by those standards, I mean, but we all remember the Somme Lake pitch that was out there 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And to get it where it is now, I know it goes back 3 or 4 years when a lot of the drainage was fixed, but the current ground staff are doing an absolutely fantastic job. I watched the video that you put on YouTube the other day about why they're doing what they're doing this summer. You think, I just assume grass grows naturally and you don't have to do all this work to take the surface off, reseeding, regrowing. And I think it's just tremendous of what they've done. I don't think in living memory people will have seen the pitch look as good as it has done in last season.
Yeah, Paul does a tremendous job. I spoke to him for the first time about just over a year ago, and I was with him for an hour and a half, and I had to transcribe an hour and a half of somebody talking about grass. But I did it because it was very interesting. Everybody in the office was kind of going, "You were there for how long?" But it's the video that you did, Lewis, with Paul Matthew, kind of underlines the work that's done. I think a lot of people, and I laughed at the social media reaction of when you put the video up there that the pitch was getting churned up. It was almost as if you were saying that you were putting your kid up for adoption. Everybody's like, why? But there's obviously reasons for it, and he went into it with the video that to keep it at that standard, you can't just say, alright, it's a nice pitch, we've got there, we'll just leave it now. You do need to do different work to it. And I think Motherwell fans accept that times have moved on. I know that I think there's maybe a Lanarkshire thing or a Scottish thing that whenever the club, it's the budget's tight, it's fan owned. There's not a lot of money going about. The manager talks about the playing budgets and what have you, and then you see a perfectly good pitch getting ripped up and sun lamps and all sorts of things on it, people go, why are you spending all the money on it? But I think it's an integral part of what the club want to do and what they want to be. Paul said to me a year ago that it's important for to sell this club to players, to take them out there and say, that's what you'll be playing on. Whereas if you think back to the pitch about kind of 3-4 years ago, remember about March time there was it looked like a golf tee. There was a big square, kind of 20 metre by 20 metre square in the middle of the park.
Patched up.
Yeah, and it was just patched up, and it's not attractive. It's also in a wider sense, it's not attractive for the league, you know, to try and sell advertising and try and do it in for outlookers.
And from a player perspective, you want it the best. I know we'll get the huge slope out there, but if you can get it as flat as you possibly can, if a manager wants to, and I hope he does, you get the ball down and you can play in the surface. Whereas that pitch we talked about 2-3 years ago, you knocked it along the surface, it was like dam busters after a few minutes as it bounced along.
They've been training on it the last 3-4 weeks, and it comes as no coincidence that Motherwell didn't win 2 games in a row all season until the tail end, and that coincided with them training in the park. Dale Park is what it is. It's not perfect, but if the pitch is going to be like that, I think you may find that the team will train on it maybe once a week or something because they can, you know, and that make a big difference.
I may not like that.
Paul may have something else to say about that, but it certainly maybe once a week's stretching it, but certainly you might find they train on it more than what they have done because let's be honest, it's like a bowling green. You'd be silly not to. Can clearly take it.
We'll hear a response from Paul Matthews on that one, I'm sure at some point, but the guys did have new challenges to get around this season with the Betfred Cup, the winter break and everything. What did you make of the whole setup with the Betfred Cup? Good.
I think it's back in January. I actually quite enjoyed it. I was a bit sceptical because I remember the old groups. Again, I'm the old guy here that can remember the groups way back in the original times, back in the 70s and 80s. And they became a bit stale, but I think the way they've done it this time, you never know, we might get a Lanarkshire Derby game, we might get Airdrie, which would spice it up a wee bit for us. Got a wee trip to Stranraer last year, which helped. It was kind of the novelty. That might wear off again, but I enjoyed it last year because it meant it wasn't teams coming here or us going to Cowdenbeath or going to Morecambe and going through the motions. It was actually competitive games. The split, the winter break, I'm never sure about that, to be honest. I'm never quite sure what 2 weeks, what we get out of it, because the players don't have time. Well, I think the Sunderland did get away, but they're back and they've got a week almost of mini pre-season before they start again. And I don't think we're going to have one this year, are we? Because of the World Cup, I think the season's pulled forward again. So it's a kind of almost a whim type thing with SPFL. We have it, then we don't have it. I don't like it as a fan because I just want to have games. You know, after the Hamilton game, I was desperate for Motherwell's next game and we had to wait almost 3 weeks to have it, which was a cup game into the bargain. So it's like 4 weeks without a league game. It just doesn't seem right in Scotland, to be honest.
It seems strange because everybody knows in the Hugman 8 games it's all derby matches, which are quite pivotal and can change momentum, what have you. And then if you then have to go from virtually every club is playing a derby game to then nothing for about 3 weeks, whether it's positive or negative momentum, it completely wipes it out. It dampens down the effect of whatever the results are, and it can completely undermines what you've built up to be a kind of showcase and showpiece weekend. I think out of a lot of the clubs in Scotland in the top flight, Motherwell will probably benefit the least out of the winter break because a large part of the winter break is probably to give pitches a chance to recover and to get through without getting snow and water or whatever else on it and playing through it and becoming even more of a mud bath than it already is, whereas Motherwell don't have that problem. There is no real benefit for Motherwell unless you've got a player who's nursing an injury and you try and get them back. Other than that, there is no real benefit. I mentioned
earlier that in the first half of the season you stop-start anyway because there's an international break September, October, November, and then you stop again. So for a club like us who doesn't have that many people going away at times now, the players are getting a wee bit of recovery time in those international weeks. So there's 3 breaks and then we have a winter break, and it just seems a bit
that stop-start nature may have played a part with Motherwell over the last couple of years. If you think on it, when you'd Stuart McCall, then you'd Mark McGee, both involved in international football, who, no offence, are disappearing for large stints. You're then leaving. In some cases it was Steve Robinson. In some cases it was Faddy. But you're leaving. Your assistant there, which I'm sure was fine. But you'd much rather have in these when you've got 2-3 weeks of a break, or 2 weeks or a week or whatever it is, that you've got somebody there who's in charge and that you're not having to dictate things to. So, I think it's. I'm not a fan of the winter break per se, but the saving grace is this year it doesn't look as if, or next year rather, it doesn't look as if you're going to have much of a one to worry about.
And as we look back over the season as a whole, we spoke about Accies has come up quite a lot in the results we've had against Accies, and I think back to those games and would you argue that all those games against Accies were pivotal points in the season? They came at big stages and we got big results when needed.
Yeah, I think they were. I think that the one when Willie Moult scored the 4 goals came at the right time. I think Louis had just come back from injury. In fact, if I remember right, that was his first game back after injury.
Take one for it, yeah.
And he scored 4 and gave us a lift that he'd come back into the side. The Hugman one we talked about earlier, that there was a point in December where you're looking at the fixtures and thinking we could be bottom going into the winter break. We beat Inverness, and then that goal lifted us again, as you mentioned, Scott, with the momentum that we hope to have. The 0-0 draw was a kind of nothing type game, to be honest, apart from the goal that we should have been given. But that one a few weeks ago, to win that one was just huge, because it kind of burst their bubble a wee bit and carried us into the Commander game as well.
Of course, yeah. And one of the things I want to talk to you about, Scott, as well, we spoke about the young players coming through. Away from the first team, the under-20s enjoyed yet another very good season under Stephen Craigan, highest ever points total in the Development League, and that's another encouraging thing going on here at Motherwell, isn't it, the development there?
Yeah, and it's something that is part of the model, isn't it? And it's been it shouldn't come as much of a surprise. It always, in a way, it always has been, to bring through young players, first team, sell them on, profit, repeat. But I think in the last certainly the last year and a half since Les Hutchison came in, I think that focus has been sharpened. You know, that there's a real drive to get players into the first team. Mark McGee spoke to me about it as well. That under no illusions, that's what the model was. There had to be so many first team players coming through. He was never told you must play such and such, but I think it was made abundantly clear you have to promote youth where possible. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier on. There is a conveyor belt coming through of players who really do have something about them. We saw that in the Youth Cup final the previous year. You talked about the points tally this year. It's all positive. You just feel sorry for Stephen Craigan, because all these players are going to eventually disappear. Hopefully into the first team, and then you never know what happens beyond that. But it is positive for the club that there are these players coming through. And it's not just Stephen Craigan, but the whole academy set up in the scouts and down, because that's where a lot of this work goes on. You know, Stephen Craigan rightly deserves a lot of credit, as does, I know, Faddy's coached, Hammy's done some, Laz has done some as well, Scott Leach, Steve McManus as well has been involved. But you think of the guys that are out with kids at the ages of 11, 12, 13. Exactly, you know, that's where a lot of the work is put in.
The thing I would say about Craigslow is that the under-20s and under-21s is always seen as a development opportunity for the players. Craigs has brought a winning mentality to them, which they didn't have before. You mentioned they've won the cup, they've got the highest league position, they're in the semi-finals of the cup this year as well. I think Craigs has brought that. He wants to develop them, but at the same time he wants them to win. Whereas before, I think it was a bit easy, that it was like, it's about development, it's not about winning games, it's now about development and winning games, and both go hand in hand. And I think that's seen them sharpen up, and the boys are probably better ready to come into the first team, because they're used to competing it in a different way.
Well, look at that game in the middle of the season. I can't remember who it was against Aberdeen. Was it Aberdeen? I forget the exact scores. They're not like 9-0 or something. 9-1, something absolutely bonkers. But it was the attitude of the team that day. I watched the highlights of it just to. Now we've got 4, we'll go for 5. Now we've got 5. Let's go for 9. And just to keep on going. Whereas if you didn't have Stephen Craigan shouting at you in the sideline from that, you may well have got 3-0 up and thought, let's just park it. Whereas I did laugh in the audio of the highlights. You can still hear when the 8th one went in, shouting at somebody to get back into position. You think, come on. But given what we've seen of Stephen Craigan as a player, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that he shows that kind of commitment to everything that he does.
Yeah, and of course there is an exciting future, you hope, for Motherwell there, with this encouraging group of players coming through, Graham. And as we look ahead now that we've wrapped up that season, what's your aims and ambitions for next season, Graham? Again,
I guess as a Motherwell fan, the first thing is let's stay up. And I think that obviously that was a tick for last season. You mentioned earlier on this season's going to be tougher with Hibs coming up.
Of course.
And I think the competition, I think we will be in that bit, six down, maybe pushing for a 6th place. You know, if the roller coaster continues, it was playoff 5th, 9th, so it could be top 6 again. Who knows? But I guess first priority, stay up, and then see where we can go after that. Can we get 6th and sharpen the door of European football again? Yeah,
and Scott, I assume that you will echo those sentiments much to the Graham's would say?
Yeah, well, I think all Motherwell fans hope for that. It's going to be difficult, because Motherwell have take the last 3 seasons now out of it, but prior to that, especially under Stuart McCall, they did so well, you know, second, third, European football, Champions League qualifier, all this kind of stuff. But I think it's worth noting, as well as Motherwell did so well there, you were doing that when Rangers were pretty much out of the game, Hearts were in decline, Aberdeen were nowhere to be seen, Hibs were a bit of a basket case, Dundee United haven't really done very much as well. So Motherwell have punched above their weight, but you're talking about big city clubs have not been at their game. Now that's no disrespect to Motherwell. It's just something that's natural, isn't it? That when these clubs start to get their act together, I'm not convinced how many of them truly have, but certainly Aberdeen have raised their game so much. Hearts, you don't know what's going to come from them. Hibs under Neil Lennon seem a team transformed. It's going to be increasingly difficult for Motherwell to repeat getting back into European football by finishing third. Recruitment is so important. I think I watched the video you did with Alan Burrows as well last week, Lewis, and he said that was one of the reasons why Stephen Robinson got the job, because he is very, very thorough. Understand as well, Carol McHugh was a player that he was aware of before he came to Motherwell, and I think it was actually I think Rob will probably had a part in him coming here. So that just shows you if Carol's anything to go by, then Motherwell should be doing all right next season. But it's difficult to say. From what we've seen of Motherwell over the last few months under Stephen Robinson, I'm optimistic that if nothing else, they will be difficult to beat. And I think that's something that a lot of Motherwell fans will probably settle for just now, given what they've seen. If you can make yourself hard to beat and you've got somebody at the top end of the park, whether it's Louis Moult or whoever else that can get the odd goal, then you're not going to be too far away.
Scott did mention earlier, the other thing you would want in any season is some kind of cup run. Since we made the final of 2011 in the Scottish Cup, it's basically been disastrous ever since in the Scottish Cup. So I think that's what everybody would keep their fingers crossed for, because we've seen Inverness and Ross County win trophies in that time and we haven't. That sort of frustrated me when we were at the top of our game. If we can get any kind of cup run, I'd be delighted this season as well. Semi-final place, a final place, great. If we could even just get a wee run to the semis, for example, that would just be brilliant. It would help financially as well, obviously.
The Betfred is perfect for that, because of the group section, you effectively get to jump a few rounds, just by qualifying. Once you get out of the group stages, you're only at that point three games off a final. You're not far away from it. And at that stage of the season, you've got to assume that Celtic will probably be involved in the Champions League, or certainly European football of some sort. Their eye might be slightly off the ball. You don't know what kind of Nick Rangers are going to be in at that point, if they're still going to be in Europe. Same for Aberdeen. So there is a massive opportunity for a club like Motherwell, if they can, as we spoke about, knit a tight group together really, really early. That is all kind of as one, difficult to be organised, which is what we've seen of them. It's been individual mistakes that have been costing Motherwell over the last few months, whereas at the start of the season it was just shambles for large parts of it, whereas recently it's just been individual errors. They've been well drilled, well organised, just not getting the rub of the green. But if they do get the rub of the green, then you never know. You never know.
On that note, while we get a bit excited talking about cup finals and all sorts, I guess it's probably a good place to bring this to a close. But gentlemen, for all your help this season, the commentary team at MFC TV, it's been a pleasure. We've got there in the end, and from everyone at Motherwell, we'd like to thank you for all your help. And thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll have another positive review to come in midway season of season 2017-18. But until then, thanks for tuning in, and thanks again, gents.
Cheers.